Story 1.
Why does nobody believe me? Nobody. Today that strange man came again. He's so tall that I can't see his face. He doesn't knock anymore, just comes in whenever he wants. He used to knock like this. Knock, 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 tap, tap. Like a heartbeat. When I told my parents about him, Mom didn't believe me. And Dad got really angry for some reason. He said it was just the windows rattling from the wind. He didn't even want to stay in my room overnight. And how am I supposed to feel about him now? Mom honestly tried to help, but the tall man found out she was sleeping with me and stopped coming. Now Mom doesn't believe me either. Well, fine. When he takes me or kills me, it'll be your fault. Got it? My mom and dad will be to blame for the death of their daughter, Melody. And you too, Nicholas. Let my little diary be the witness. Only Grandma understands me. She says he's a forest guardian that needs to be appeased and then everything will be fine. She put some nuts under my pillow. I don't know. Maybe he's not that bad. Though he's a terrifyingly silent one. Maybe this guardian is watching over me, because the next time he came, he brought a squirrel. The squirrel immediately scurried under the pillow. Now she lives with me. I ordered the servants not to tell my parents about her. We feed her together. I think I'll name her Tiffany. Border Ridge Weekly, November 22nd. Kidnapping, murder, or escape. A great misfortune has struck our town. Little and beloved Miss Melody has disappeared. This terrible incident happened the night before last. It was her father, the respected chairman, Mr. Gray Fox, who reported it to the police. According to the parents, the little girl was peacefully sleeping in her bed in the mansion. Nothing indicated trouble. But early in the morning, the servants found only scattered sheets. The whole town, acting as one, has thrown itself into the search, which continues to this day. Despite the cold, residents continue to search the streets and surrounding areas. When the short day fades, torches are lit. Our correspondent is among the volunteers, so we will keep you updated on the events. It should be mentioned that this is not the first suspicious disappearance, and when you add the horrible accidents, the picture becomes truly sinister. But don't panic. A special investigator from Scotland Yard has been called in from London. He should arrive any day now, and then the villains will pay for their crimes. Wow, this reads like a thriller. Looks like his evening will be filled with some interesting reading. For such evenings, coffee is a must. Ben put the folder with the manuscripts aside, leaned back in the carved chair, and stared out the window. Who would have thought that the first find in the attic would be so captivating? Though it's not really an attic, but one of the castle towers, it's so cluttered that it's indistinguishable from an ordinary attic. The previous owner must have been quite the hoarder, much like one of his aunts. Antique armor, stacks of paintings, porcelain sets, a huge Russian nesting doll, a tricycle, and other vintage and antique items. Ben started down the spiral staircase, past the marble landing, left along the corridor lined with tapestries and vases, around an inexplicable stain on the floor, down again, over the red carpet. Just getting to the kitchen is a small quest. The only lived-in place with a heater and new windows. The most advanced device is the coffee machine, and now his iPhone. For the past few years, only the elderly butler lived here, doing his best to keep the rooms and garden in order. Poor old man. It's impossible for one person to even partially clean such vast spaces. Well, at least there's no cobwebs falling on his head, and for that he's grateful. While the coffee maker was grinding the beans, Ben wondered why his father had never mentioned this place before. Afraid his son would bring a noisy party, and they'd wreck the place. Even so, his cousin wouldn't have cared. No one would want to bother with such an old, cumbersome building. Just heating it would cost a fortune and require a staff. But Ben didn't come here for loud parties. Quite the opposite. To be alone and take a break from all responsibilities. Maybe he would figure out what he wanted to do next. They say great ideas come only when no one is breathing down your neck. He really was tired. His parents constantly pressured him, forcing him to study, develop in directions he didn't like, perform tedious tasks. They hired tutors, invited specialists, even interfered in his personal life because one day he would take over their business. Everything about him had to be perfect, including his image. Benjamin this, Benjamin that. A horrible name. He never liked it. Just Ben is better. The all-boys college had also grown tiresome. The same stern faces. Of course, he understood why. So that nothing, especially the female half of humanity, would distract from academics, and the efficiency at such institutions is much higher. But sometimes he just wanted to be a regular person, study at a normal school. But no, early rise. Chauffeur drives to the high spires of the college, philosophy, political science, management, lunch, advanced math, cybernetics, and aesthetics. In the evening, chess, cricket, poetry club. Weekends meant horseback riding, theater, or being taken to his father's office. So boring. He would rather do something truly interesting. Like traveling the world on $100, climbing mountain peaks, or soaring through the skies on his own hang glider. Maybe developing fantastic shooters or fantasy role-playing games. When he inherits his father's business, he can make any fantasy a reality in virtual space. He had no idea how wonderful life could be without the internet, newspapers, or television. Even cell service barely worked. An incredible refreshment for the senses and thoughts, as if returning to the roots of life. It's a pity he hadn't tried it sooner. Those monks and enlightened ones must know something, always retreating to caves and forest thickets. Grabbing the steaming cups, he took an extra. Ben set off to cover the distance between him and the intriguing story. On the second floor, he stopped at a rustling sound. The castle constantly creaked, tapped, groaned, as if falling apart under its own weight and age. Maybe it was. After a week, Ben got used to it, though the first night he couldn't sleep. The sound of claws on wood repeated. Using his foot, he opened the source of the noise. The door creaked open. No one, just a dusty room with furniture under covers. Probably rats, who else, though there were no holes in the walls, and he hadn't come across any mouse droppings. "Hey, that's my coffee, get out." Nothing had changed in the tower. The folder lay where he left it, sharing the table with a massive ashtray, a clock with a ballerina, a multi-volume set of Kant, and an ancient stereo camera. The hardcover pages were secured at the corners like old photo albums. Runes ran along the spine, which Ben didn't understand. The disturbed dust had settled. Ben sat down and blew on his fingers with relief. The drink had cooled a bit, but still burned. Suddenly, his hands shot up. Ben furiously scratched his scalp, tousling his hair. Another attack of the no-doctor-knows-what illness. His head just started itching, seemingly from inside. But neither tomography, introscopy, nor the hammer tapping on his skull revealed any abnormalities. A friend once joked that horns were growing. Idiot. Ben wasn't even married. What horns? Phew, it subsided. Benjamin blinked, took a sip of the black beverage, and turned the page. "Greetings, Colonel Stone. I hope you are in good health. Remembering your broad shoulders and confident posture, I have no doubt that another couple of military campaigns won't burden you. I am pleased to inform you that I have safely arrived in Border Ridge. The blizzard tried to delay my arrival like a sneaky criminal. It even opened the window in my compartment, and I almost lost my hat. Fortunately, the locomotive completed its task. bravely piercing through the snow wall. Lord Brensward, your good friend, I hope in the future mine too, met me at the station in person. A worthy man with magnificent mustaches, a true gentleman. Despite the severe frost, he wore only a frock coat and bowler hat. As it turned out, he is an excellent swimmer, having even crossed the English Channel. Tell me who your friend is, and I'll tell you who you are, right, Colonel? We proceeded by carriage to his castle, an impressive structure. With a couple of loyal companions, I could defend it for a month. High walls, towers, a wide moat, narrow windows, all as it should be. It stands on a hill like a stone sentinel, guarding the town, keeping it safe from the shadows and dangers of the Scottish forest. Mrs. Brensward warmly welcomed me with hot tea and blueberry pie. Such sweet luxury I couldn't have expected. Then a servant escorted me upstairs to my quarters. On the way, I continued to admire the luxurious tapestries, paintings of summer landscapes warming better than a fireplace, ran my hand over carved furniture, and appreciated the magnificent wrought iron lamps. You know, as a child I wanted to be a blacksmith. They gave me one of the towers. I tried to resist, hinting that there was no need to heat a whole wing just for me, and it was far for the servants to reach. But the Lord just shook his head and noted the tower as an excellent observation post, a kind of eagle's nest. Indeed, from here you can see the surroundings well, both the town and the suburbs with numerous farms and estates, and the forest. Here the Lord's lands begin and stretch to the Scottish hills. No better post for an investigator. The next morning, wasting no time, I went to the main police station. The commissioner assigned me 3 young constables, dedicated and ready for action. There they briefed me on the case. I wanted to personally interview all the witnesses and spent the next 2 days traveling, also getting to know the town. On the surface, an ordinary northern town, though redheads are on every corner. The civilians are quite friendly. Agriculture is well developed. The suburbs are surrounded by numerous fields and pastures. To the east there are factories and mills. A river runs through the town and flows into the bay, conditionally navigable. So far we have 6 disappearances and 3 accidents involving domestic animals. It is unknown if they are connected. The turmoil supposedly started after Samhain, the harvest festival that takes place in early November. The commissioner and the town police are conducting a parallel investigation, but their efforts have yet to bear fruit. I promise to get to the bottom of it, sir. I'll lay down my life if necessary, but I won't let you down. Don't mind if I elaborate too much, like for a report. It's because at university I often secluded myself in the art department of the library instead of cramming forensic and investigation texts. In any case, I am enclosing accompanying materials and copies of documents here. John Hound, ESQ. Hello, Mr. Amber. Writing to you is Wilbert Park, the manager of the company Meat & Co. As an enterprise with a long history, we monitor every stage of production and do our utmost to maintain the highest quality and best taste of our products. We expect the same from our partners and contractors, including logistics. I'm saddened to inform you that last month we were short 6 carcasses, and this month 9. I don't want to think about how many families missed their breakfast bacon due to someone's selfish interests. I strongly advise you to address the personnel issues and ensure all deliveries are intact. Surely you won't claim that freshly slaughtered and frozen calves ran off on their own hooves. Otherwise, we'll have to terminate the contract. Respectfully, Mr. Park, Meat & Co. Hello, my boy. I hope you conveyed my best wishes to my friend. And of course the bottle of brandy. I'm glad to hear that you have diligently taken up the matter. It's pleasant to see such dedicated youth worthy successors in the defense of our beloved England. Answering your greeting, I must say, you overestimate me. Age takes its toll. But I will still give that witch a bloody nose, remember that, son. If the homeland calls me, know that I will be the first to take up the rifle. All is calm in London. The Times only write about new conquered territories and technological progress. Thus, promising inspectors are sent to the kingdom's backwater, the dirtiest slums, where the situation is less favorable. Especially the North, Scotland, the Scots. They are too hot-headed and unruly to be controlled. Mark my words, it must be some red-headed maniac led astray by bad upbringing, or the absence of it. If you handle the assignment successfully, you can expect a promotion. So go for it, John. Oh yes, what a delightful and thrilling idea. Oh, Erato, best of the muses, I have waited so long for you. Right is he who calls the night the most mysterious, magical time. The best ideas break through into the realm of being, tearing the veil of sleep. And here I write these lines in the dead of night, hoping to catch my bird of luck by the tail. Perhaps this fragment will make a good work. It will be a tale of love. Love is eternal. It always finds a place in the reader's heart, and on the pages between the covers. A tragic story, or not. I don't know yet. The forest rustles, dropping cones into the grass. Tomorrow morning, rodents and birds will pounce on the bounty, but now they sleep. The red-faced moon does not sleep. It burns like the passion in Juliet's chest, the beautiful maiden with diamond eyes and a snowy smile. Her blonde braid rests on the folds of her best dress. She waits for her man, creeping through the darkness, driven by the desire to press his lips to her cheeks. And here he appears in the window. Only a light band covers his loins, the shaggy fabric resembling fur, and he himself, a wild beast. Heated sweat trails rivulets down his mighty chest, breath escaping his lips, those lips that kiss so eagerly. He ran. Juliet rushes to him, embracing him tightly. In his arms, she is the happiest woman on earth. "Oh, if only you knew how I waited for you," she breathes. "I did too, my love," the youth replies tenderly. She runs her white palms through his long chestnut hair. Familiar little horns under the mane, so neat and cute. He has come, her beast. Yes, he is not a man. He is a forest deer, whom the beauty's power turned into a human. Once he saw her drawing water from a stream, and the god of love, Eros, gifted him his blessing. He ignited a great passion in the beast's heart, and the deer became one of us, a longing, two-legged creature. The man became of extraordinary beauty, and Juliet reciprocated. Now, by day, he lives a forest life. At night, he rushes to her. "Come," he says, pulling her by the hand. "I brought you a gift, very juicy." He leads her across the yard to the farthest stable. Horses are dozing there now, almost his brothers. The stalks tickle Juliet's heels. She smiles from happiness. What juicy treats could her chosen one bring? Fruits, wine, a pie and syrup. He swings the doors open. Candle flames fall. "Look, I just caught it. The blood is still warm." "Oh no." Juliet covers her lips with her hands in horror. At her feet lies a rabbit's carcass. A bright bloody mark on the neck from the deer's teeth that carried the prey through the thicket. The fur is matted, one eye bulging, staring right at her. The belly has burst, intestines glistening. This is disgusting. She loses control. Her hand rises in a sharp gesture, and on her beloved's face blooms the mark of a slap. The deer is confused, his gift rejected. Losing control of his body, he turns into a beast. Wants to run away, but in a fit of despair lunges at Juliet. The young horns have not yet grown back after shedding. Their edges are sharp. God knows, he didn't want this. But what's done is done. Juliet collapses to the floor, clutching a mortal wound. He rushes to her, human again. but only a helpless cry echoes in the night. The end, or maybe a happy ending. Something like this. She scolds him. Only wild beasts are allowed to eat raw flesh and kill the innocent. But now he is a man, above the laws of nature. He is a spiritual and elevated being. The deer realizes his mistake and forever sheds his animal skin. Too saccharine. Better the first version. Perhaps. Though let the reader decide. An open ending is the best option. My greetings, Colonel. Unfortunately, this letter will not bring you pleasure, nor to any sane person. As I mentioned in the telegram, another mysterious death occurred in town. Perhaps murder, though it could just as likely have been an accident. The details are truly horrifying, but I must overcome myself. Tuesday morning didn't forewarn anything bad. I had just started breakfast, the bacon already tickling my nose, when little Stevie, one of the constables, burst into the kitchen. They call him Little because of his gentle nature, though he could compete with a small bull in size. "Murder, Inspector, murder!" he nearly shouted in a fluster. I calmed him down, but breakfast had to wait for a better time. I only took a couple of pies with me. I would later be grateful for the light snack, as my stomach might not have held anything more substantial after what I saw. But let's be consistent. The frost nipped my face. Snow crunched under the carriage wheels. But the sun shone high, unobscured by clouds. We didn't enter the town, wheeling around to one of the farm estates that densely dot the outskirts. The estate nestled against the forest, as if it grew into it. Stevie explained the situation, gesticulating actively, though the event didn't match his vigorous reaction. Farmer's daughter Juliet Timbers, found dead in the stable, in her best dress. Found by her mother. The poor woman wailed terribly, and I understand her. Her husband had to drag her away by force. It's unclear what the girl was doing there, since they hadn't kept horses for the last 2 years. By morning the body had frozen, but according to Stevie, there were no signs of violence. It was as if she just walked out and died from the cold. So he took the murder theory from nowhere. His comrade stayed at the farm with orders to let no one in or out. Now to the most unpleasant part of the letter, Colonel. I entered the stable first. A scream of disgust stuck in my throat. The girl wasn't alone. A vile creature was desecrating the corpse, something no one would suspect of being a scavenger. A deer, seemingly a noble animal. It bowed its antlered head, but instead of foraging under the snow, it was gnawing at the poor girl's face. There was nothing left of the skin. Her glazed eyes stared into nothingness. A black hole gaped where her nose should be. 2 shots from my revolver finished the beast. A cloth covered Juliet's face at the funeral. Regardless, duty allows no room for sentimentality. The autopsy was conducted the same day, cause of death cardiac arrest. Whether it happened naturally due to a weak constitution, or because she saw something, remains unknown. I searched the crime scene, but only noticed numerous animal tracks in the forest, and crows on the branches, many crows, as if they had gathered for carrion, though a fresh corpse couldn't attract them. There's no slaughterhouse nearby, nor eateries. I don't know what could have attracted them. They sat there, and I swear, Colonel, they stared me down. The birds watched me silently. Then one of them, the biggest I had ever seen, looked at the others and cawed something in its bird language. The birds rose as one and flew towards the forest. The rustle of black wings echoed in my ears for a long time. I will keep you updated on the events, Mr. Stone. Good day, Colonel. I must admit my days are shrouded in darkness and routine. However, there are plenty of various rumors. According to one of the strangest theories surrounding this case, everything is the work of one person, either a sorcerer, a dark elf, or the devil's son. It's amazing what people believe in the age of steam engines, mechanics, and the widespread use of electricity. This man is notable for having impressive horns on his head. He was seen with their own eyes by 2 lumberjacks and a housewife. Not the most reliable witnesses. I listened to each story and became convinced of the character's dubiousness. However, when the same story was told by a respected friend of Lord Brensward, I reconsidered. Here's how it happened. During a recent hunt, a favorite pastime of aristocrats, the Baron thought he shot a boar. Leaving his horse tied, he ventured into the thicket, following a clear red trail. How surprised he was when, instead of game, he met the cold gaze of a suspicious and eerie man. The man stood motionless like an idol, glaring at the hunter. The Baron, a seasoned man who fought many battles for the crown, admitted he got scared and decided to retreat. Such an admission from a respected and brave gentleman could not go unnoticed. So, what do we have, I thought? Horns, a notable feature, and if such a man exists or existed, there should be records somewhere. I delved into the archives, enlisted a bookworm from the center. What do you think, sir? Such a man was found. A certain Aaron Birdman. Born in London in an ordinary though quite wealthy family in 1836. Despite the deformity, he was kept and raised as an ordinary boy. He lived as a recluse, didn't attend school or college. Though that means nothing, many are tutored if they can afford it. So he lived in his parents' house, and with him grew the horns. They were said to be a foot tall, very much like deer antlers. On his 20th birthday, he disappeared. Mass searches were organized but yielded no results. Since then, no trace of Aaron. Could it be the same person? Possible. But then he would be an old man. Or your maniac theory is correct, and someone dresses in animal skins to terrify his victims. In that case, it's no wonder poor Juliet had a heart attack. Or maybe just a mad old believer thinking himself a druid. Or the Baron's eyes were playing tricks. In any case, it would be unprofessional to disregard plausible leads. As I said, lately there's been no significant events. I can only mention the capture of a burglar. In this regard, I must tell you about Mr. Hatchet, whose help is becoming more significant. In summer, he serves as a forester, spending day and night in the hut. In winter, he moves to town. He is well known and liked here. He gathers rare herbs for apothecaries and healers, organizes hunts for wealthy people. He helped me establish many connections. His sheepdog Aina is a true tracker, worthy of joining the force. They are devoted to each other since he saved her as a puppy from a pack of mongrels, a model of canine loyalty. Following one lead, we found a trail. When a man with a covered face climbed out a window early in the morning, my heart leaped. The criminal fired back and we fell behind. But Aina knew no fear or fatigue. She chased him for 5 blocks until the poor soul squeezed between the pipes where her teeth couldn't reach. When we arrived, he tearfully confessed. Unfortunately, it was just a common burglar. But the residents were grateful. That's all for now. Best wishes, your John. The number of people seeking sedatives has alarmingly increased. Of course, Borderidge isn't the calmest place, but seeing grown men come to the pharmacy with trembling hands, holding out a prescription slip, that's too much. The problem is often the same: anxiety, sleep issues, attention disorder. What's my point, you ask, Malcolm? Supplies are running low. When you come next, bring an ounce of valerian and motherwort extract, 3 pints of opium tincture and McMahon's elixir. We'll settle up as usual. Greetings from London, John. Don't worry about the small things. In our line of work, such things happen when all that's left is to wait. I remember lying in the trenches for weeks, waiting for the attack order. So use the free time to rest. Go to a bar. You can even give a few Scots a thrashing, for educational purposes, of course. Yesterday I took my beloved granddaughter to Big Ben. She loves its chime. A wonderful child, well-mannered, tidy, smart, and attentive. Her eyes sparkle. The man who becomes her suitor will be the happiest on earth. She keeps asking about you, when Uncle John will return. It would be great if you could wrap up the case by the new year. Or just find time for the old colonel, his wife, and the humble family. Preparations for Christmas in London are in full swing. A huge Christmas tree has been set up in the square. Shopkeepers are hanging garlands and ornaments in stores. Even my favorite pub has got deer antlers and elf hats. Looking forward to your reply. Keep your chin up. Adventures don't leave Captain Bird even in retirement. Thought I'd live a quiet life. Water celery by day. Write memoirs of glorious days by night. With a pipe in my mouth, gaze into the distance like Dickens, shooting memories. But no. Shadows loom over Borderidge. Just yesterday, our beloved milkmaid, whom I'd chase if not for my wife, was attacked by her own cow. She woke up early as usual to milk the cow. The cow kicked out, normally a quiet animal, and bit her forearm. Cows have serious teeth, chewing oats and herbs all day. 12 stitches, that's what. And where will we get milk for tea now? It happened once to a guy in our unit. A yellow-skinned bayonet stabbed him. 12 stitches too. Then he bragged to the ladies that he single-handedly took down a whole squad. First people go missing, now animals go mad. It's bad when pets turn on their owners. Mark my words, it'll get worse, an epidemic. And who do they send to sort it out? Some youngster from Scotland Yard. They're not even military. At his age, I was already in the war's crucible, mowing down yellow bellies left and right. Back to our elephants. I remember my battalion served under Udaipur, a remote place, nothing but jungle and predators. One elephantess took to eating people, and that, I tell you, is scarier than a man-eating lion. But we were seasoned men, seen worse. Tossed in storms, faced whales as big as Big Ben. What's an elephant? But a big animal, no doubt. Needed cunning, a trap. There was a lad, Bazoo, a good fellow, not typical for an Indian. Brave as Robin Hood, served as a cabin boy, tied knots that amazed. We dug a pit, tied ropes, took dynamite. Instead of human meat, threw in pig shanks. We sat, waited. Hello, Colonel. My heart aches, knowing I must share more bad news. But truth above all. This time, 2 whole families disappeared. If it weren't for one of the Woodstock sons staying home, we would have learned of the incident much later. When his parents and sister didn't return, he went looking, but found only desolation. The next day I was already examining the place myself. My only companions were the draft and cold. The unusual silence was unnerving, pressing, as if wishing to rid of guests. Normally such places are filled with sounds even in winter. The cries of babies, the chatter of numerous family members, hammering, cows lowing, horses neighing, dogs barking. But not here. The house was empty. Frost seeped through open windows, snow covered the rugs. Dining utensils were left as during a meal. Tea had turned to ice. Pudding remained unfinished. I wrapped my coat tighter and headed to the yard. Visited the kennels, barns, and stables. Not a living soul, all animals gone. Over 50 cows, 12 horses, 5 dogs, not to mention the chickens and ducks. I can't fathom where such a crowd could vanish. Seems like a planned operation. Something like this is sometimes pulled off by gypsies. If we assume the blizzard covered the herd's tracks and the owners were removed as witnesses, it's a plausible theory. They must have accomplices in town. Border Ridge continues to throw mysteries. From the tower, my perch, not only the town but also the forest is well visible. A few days ago, a fierce storm hit. We locked ourselves in and warmed under blankets. How surprising it was to see a light on the hill among the firs during the dark. From a distance and through the white veil, it was hard to discern, but I'd stake my head. There was a bonfire. Remarkably, it burned almost undisturbed by the snowfall. The mystery deepened when I tried to ask the Lord about it. With a calm face, he said the fire appears not for the first year, usually during Samhain. No one knows for sure what it is, but fierce debates rage. Some say druids dance, some remember Jack Frost, the embodiment of fierce winter. Others hint at forest spirits and fairies. I only marveled at such talk but kept quiet. The forester said the same. Additionally, Hatchet mentioned that in summer he occasionally sees a strange man blending with the thicket. If not for Aina, he'd quit long ago, but with a loyal friend, he's fearless. Yet telling this, he crossed himself. I am not deterred by superstitious attitudes. Everything has a rational scientific explanation. I won't leave this be. Also, no matter how Lord Brensward maintains the castle, it's falling apart. Lately, a persistent knocking has been bothering me. Clearly heard in my room. Checked. All shutters seem closed and oiled, as do doors. But the castle surely has secret rooms the Lord himself doesn't know about. Moreover, there are rats here. Some small creature constantly claws, scratches, scrapes. This squeak is irritating. By the way, the knocking has a rhythm. Knock, 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 knock. Tap, tap. All right, this is not relevant. Goodbye and best wishes. Still, I chose the happy ending. Juliet deserves happiness. Plus, the plot can take an adventurous turn and introduce conflict. The reader loves conflict, so let them have it. The young deer finally shed the animal skin, burned all bridges, covered all forest paths. But the Forest King doesn't let his children go easily. He calls his vassals from all lands, from all fields, big and small, with long sharp horns, with claws and gills, furry and bristly, flying and ground. They crawl out of burrows, emerge from river depths, descend from high nests. Storm clouds gather over the estate where the young deer awaits his beloved. She, buoyed by love, announces the upcoming wedding, invites friends and relatives. Now he is alone in the high tower, bent over a love letter. The dark hand closes in. The young man, anxious, lifts his head, looks around. Human eyes aren't as perfect as an animal's sense, but intuition suggests trouble is near. Thunder rumbles outside, lightning blinds. The deer clutches his head, in fury overturns the table. The letter falls to the floor, into dust. Sounds surge like a ninth wave, howl, gnashing teeth, squeak, rustling dozens of paws above the ceiling, underfoot, behind walls. An invisible army rumbles in the beams, penetrates under floorboards. The deer, in fear, locks the doors with a key, slams the shutters. The noise subsides. Only the flicker of a candle and the beat of a heart. But the door is a flimsy shelter from inevitability, from paying old debts. Someone claws at the door, claws dig deeper into the pine. The torn wood spreads the scent of resin. An aroma that once evoked delight, reminded of home, now burns the nostrils. The man falls to his knees. A silent scream distorts his features. Long fingers tear at his clothes. The door falls under the assault. Sharp-toothed shadows pounce on the naked body. Roots burst through the floor, securely holding the limbs, recently hooves. The man gazes helplessly into the darkness. He walks in leisurely. The king, one with nature. His eyes are cones, his hands intertwining vines, his face rustling grass, his skin foliage. He opens his arms, opens a hollow mouth. His voice hoots like an owl. "My son, it's time to come home." The longer I stay in town, the more tangled the case becomes, Colonel. People keep disappearing and I don't know what to do. It's as if they leave of their own will, leaving no traces, like they're mocking me. No. What am I saying? I've never seen disappearances leave no clues. Damn it, they just vanish into thin air. Or the blizzard covers the tracks. In that case, they can only go into the forest because no one sees them in town anymore. I don't even see the point in asking for reinforcements. The situation is unlikely to change, even if all the town's men are sent searching. I had one last straw to grasp at the mysterious lights in the forest. They continue to burn, invariably accompanied by a snowstorm. Though Lord Brensward claims they've burned for years, disappearances could have started long ago, just unnoticed by society. Right? My duty is to clear the truth of Frost and debunk the myth of a supposed sorcerer living there. I gathered my boys. Mr. Hatchet also volunteered, to my great joy. In case anything, Aina will find the way back. I loaded my revolver, gave the boys carbines. The forester clung to his trusty rifle, though his best weapon was the sheepdog. The first time we set out in the morning to settle in ambush. The forester was noticeably nervous, but willed himself to suppress inappropriate feelings. He even tried to dissuade me, hinting that we might encounter forces beyond human control. But seeing my determination, he sighed and gripped his rifle tighter. The bonfire was empty. Surprising was a large, snow-free area around, while we trudged knee-deep. It gave hope that the forest dwellers would return, and their motives I intended to find out. We sat all night, bruising our bottoms on hard branches. Staying below meant freezing them off completely. No blizzard raged. When roosters crowed, Stevie fell asleep and I called it off. The next night brought another storm. The fire flared up, mocking our futile attempts. For a week, twice more, we ventured into the forest, to find the same. I think the mistake is going out by day and they can spot us coming. We must move at night after the fire blazes. P.S. A sort of animal rabies plagues the town. Livestock turns aggressive, attacks owners, pets go wild. Recently, while I went out at night to the outhouse, Mrs. Brensward's cat scratched my face. Now we keep apart. I didn't tell the lady, let her not worry needlessly. Milk yields have fallen and the stable boy left, saying the horses were utterly unruly. Understandable, surprising he survived a kick at all. The control group of rats has behaved strangely for the last 2 months. Aggression levels have significantly increased. Hierarchy disrupted. They react sharply to light stimuli, preferring to sleep during the day. Even food preferences changed. Invariably choose meat over plant products. Alpha male, Jared, instead of defending the pack, attacks indiscriminately, hoards food, letting no one near it. Naturally, most of it spoils. Jared has grown very fat, attacked several times, trying to challenge his status as leader, still holding the top. Lower ranks form isolated groups, raiding for food. In these groups, their own power struggles arise. They've become completely vicious and uncontrollable. Electric shocks help a bit. Maternal instinct fails. Females reject offspring, in some cases eat the pups. Pregnant ones retreat to the far side of the cage and starve. Perhaps need a bigger cage. Unclear for now. Stone, we awaited that fire like a thoroughbred at the starting line, shifting from foot to foot at the forest edge, eyes fixed on the damned hill. The moon blinded. The pale snows shine like the skin of a pathology patient. When my legs nearly turned to ice, the blizzard rose, and patience was rewarded. Our boots crunched through the snow cover, stirring the blood. We fought through the storm's wall. The wind knocked us down. Deep snow tried to topple and bury us in its embrace. Suddenly the wall ended. I fell forward. Silence hit so hard I thought the wind had damaged my eardrums. Then the smell of grass, lush as if after a scythe, hit my nose. I lifted my head. He sat there. Back to the uninvited guests, not even turning. Probably counting on our stunned state. Well, I'm ashamed to admit, but I was no more dangerous than a child staring open-mouthed. Mind refused to believe. Here by this fire, instead of winter, lay summer. I saw everything as day. Grass carpeted the ground thickly, forget-me-nots and clover peeking from the green like a diamond tiara in luxurious hair. A horned man held something like a rosary in one hand. In the other puffed smoke from a long pipe, growing from a copper pot. Animals scurried around. Field mice and raccoons ran, climbed his shoulders. A boar snorted, head down. A fox curled by his back. Damn it. 2 squirrels held a wooden cup with steaming liquid in tiny paws. Smelled of herbs. Maybe just tea. But the biggest fear came from the wolves at the far end of the invisible dome. My hand tightened on the revolver grip. The animal charmer exuded a sinister threat, yet evoked deep respect, like a rookie near a veteran. This one must be reckoned with, every instinct said. But not all could control their emotions. A simple quilted coat, yet he seemed a true king of beasts. Fiercer than a lion, more dangerous than a man with a rifle and a lion's pelt on his shoulders. And of course, horns tall, branching like a young stag. The summer dome repelled the blizzard. Snowflakes hit the invisible barrier and clumped at its base. Forgive me, sir, but the only word is witchcraft. My companions looked around just as stunned. The forester tried to calm the agitated Aina. Never saw her like this. Stung like by a gadfly, she fought the owner's grip, snarling. Finally, I regained control of my body, especially my tongue. By the authority of Scotland Yard and the Queen, I order you to come here and identify yourself. The sorcerer slowly set aside the cup, just as slowly turned his wrinkled face. His voice rustled like autumn leaves, yet no sound was lost on us. There is no authority here, human. What are you doing here? I insisted. Do you know anything about the townsfolk's disappearance? I just enjoy nature's gifts. Sit at her feet and graciously await grains of truth. I don't understand. Pity. He didn't look aggressive. No anger in his voice. More of sadness. Maybe we could negotiate. But little Stevie gave in to emotion. Hard to blame him. The carbine spat a bullet. The fire flickered. The shot didn't injure, but signaled defense. The fox jumped up, squirrels squealed, the boar pricked its ears. Wolves charged first. Our side rang with rifle fire. Fur flew in tufts, fierce roars turned to dying whimpers. Yet more 4-legged reinforcements came. Reloading a rifle isn't a second's task. Stevie fell first. The boar ripped his belly. The grass stained red. Rodents went for the face and fingers. The scoundrel kept sitting, smoking. Didn't even turn, can you imagine? We could still win. 4 men, loyal to duty and the Queen. Then came what I least expected. The beloved, ever-loyal sheepdog attacked its owner. The forester froze, surprise in his eyes until they dimmed. He could fend her off, but it was his dear Aina. She tore out his throat, raised her bloody muzzle to me. I acted swiftly. The revolver punched a hole in the rabid bitch's skull. Turning from the dead dog, I realized I was alone. Wolves feasted on constables like the best delicacies. The charmer stood across, fingers spinning the rosary, staring at me. Such weary eyes. As if he was born tired, knew no joy. Either the greatest sage or a complete madman. Don't know what diabolic forces he allied with for such power. "Pity, Mr. Hound," he said. "Your investigation succeeded." The blizzard cradled me like a baby and tossed me to the forest edge. This town didn't accept me, freezing, sitting in the snow. All barely known vanished. Years of drills, masters, nannies didn't prepare for such a trial. No idea what next, afraid to disappear in night's dark. Wild boar, long tusks undermined my pillars. Forest beast hunts man. Nature entwined limbs with vines. Where am I, jungle? Why does the blizzard lash my face? In hell's depth? Why then does a priest murmur? No strength to seek truth. Blindly stumble to bright fire. Maybe it will give answers. December 27th, North Yorkshire. Stone, your name is a rock. I wasn't as tough. I can't stand this any longer. The knocking drives me crazy. Want to flee, even barefoot in the snow. Yet it lures, promises answers, makes me stay. What should I do, Uncle Stone? I can't solve this crime. Each day brings more mysteries. Helplessly watch people vanish, die. It's some cruel game. I'm just a pawn. And my role is written. Something scratches at the door. Judging by the sound, there must be a pack of wolves. But repeatedly opening it, I find only emptiness. It mocks me. Knock, knock. Every door, every shutter. Wherever I go. In the castle, police station, grocery, pub, creek, little teeth scraping. Something constantly scratches in my head. I can't take it anymore. Forgive me, Colonel. I'm a poor investigator. I'm going to him. Alone. Going to the fire. God help me. Hope this record finds a reader. Maybe not to warn, but as a message of innocent victims sacrificed to unknown forces. My name is Brandon Chamber, a simple clerk. My life hasn't been sinless. I'm ready to answer for them. But what are my children's sins? For 2 days we've been locked in our basement. Huddled by the turnings, stretching food supplies. Border Ridge under a weather siege. Yet that's not the worst. Furious cold traps us indoors, but no chill compares to fear. It seeps through the door with a knock and claw scratch. The devil brought despair to town. A horned man and his beast pack. A wild hunt. They prowl the town, seeking innocent blood. Worse, many of us joined the dark side. Disgusting, blasphemous. They wander with wild eyes, dirty, shaggy-like beasts. People riding bears and wolves, wolverines and crows on men and women's backs. A devilish alliance. That young man from London among them. I remember him well. He came asking questions. Even corpses obey his magic. I saw with my own eyes skinless cows rise to avenge their butchers. Don't know if there's a chance for salvation. But thank God, in this last hour I'm with family. Such luck smiled on few. Fathers and sons find their final rest on icy streets. Their flesh feeds and waters the devil's followers in animal skins. Know this, human, when your loyal dog bites your hand, look and listen. Don't you hear the knock? Benjamin forcefully threw the folder aside. The ballerina on the clock wobbled and pointed a finger at him. His breath struggled to pass the dam of lips. Sweat stung his eyelids. His eyes darted around, slipped to the window. The evening twilight almost hid the hill at the forest edge. That hill. Years passed, and it's still there. The itch gripped his head so hard it pierced pain through his body. Ben clutched his skull. No, nonsense. This story can't be true. England never had such blizzards to bury a whole town. Someone's tale. Ah, right. Father's scary story to frighten the son. No wonder he hides behind Wells or Lovecraft volumes sometimes. Imagination works. Unclear why he'd scare him off the castle. Maybe to have fun with a mistress. Why not? Seemingly a family man, gentleman, conservative. But inside, enough. Why act like a girl? Thinking silly things. Father may be strict but faithful. Os, Ben shouted, fists outstretched. Didn't know what it meant, but heard karate guys say it for concentration. Helps relieve tension. Exhale, slow inhale, swallowed the lump of saliva, licked dry lips. That's better. No forest spirits. One thing left. Scary, but must. Ben looked out the window and saw nothing. No bonfires, lights, LEDs. Turned, gave a farewell glance to the folder, smirked. Silly behavior. Time to go down and sleep. Turned off the light, rushed down the stairs. The sound behind the closed door froze him. Never heard it, but recognized instantly. Knock, 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 tap, tap.
Story 2.
The first words come reluctantly, as if a rusty mechanism in my mind begins to move with a creak. Cobwebs and dust fall away, and thoughts, like a small spring just uncovered, start to trickle to the surface. I sit surrounded by a few smoky candles. This old, foul-smelling basement, forgotten by everyone but accidentally found by me, has become my refuge during the daylight hours. Only here can I escape the sharp scents of the living, their heartbeats. My instincts claw to the surface, but I manage to deceive them, relatively successfully, thanks to the thick mold and tallow candles. Yes, I have to deceive myself to maintain control. I refuse to become a slave to my body. I don't want to live happily at the expense of others' suffering. But my body rebels against me, slowly but surely pushing my mind out. It's interesting to see how long I can last. Probably until the next night. Each night becomes a kind of breaking free from the chains of reason. My consciousness and personality are driven out by instincts and desires, and I become an unwilling witness to the atrocities that ensue. There was a time when I could resist, but so much time has passed, filled with only suffering and pain, that nothing else remains in my life. The worst part is I realize that without my body, all my knowledge and skills are worth nothing, but the body will persist. I have already seen it take what it wants, achieve its desires. It knows no torment or pangs of conscience, but I do, and I understand that sooner or later the agony will shatter my mind. Or perhaps I will eventually agree to become what the little boy is turning me into. Every night, at different times, the world around me freezes. It doesn't matter what I'm doing, where I am, someone stops everything around, and a few moments later I find myself in a different place. A soft rustle, and I am somewhere unknown. A rounded room with sparse lighting, expensive furniture all around, carpets covering the floor, and a high ceiling, so high that only darkness is visible. There are only 2 pointed windows with cloudy glass. Once, I approached one of them. I was in an improbably tall tower. I saw an immense expanse around the dark night castle. The sky is always overcast. Only the moon's face and a trembling halo are visible through the gaps. Every time I can't get used to it. Darkness begins to descend from the ceiling, rushing like a turbulent water stream straight to the center of the room. The gloom weaves into thin threads, becoming a dense material. In about half a minute, maybe a minute, a boy emerges from this stream. He looks no older than 7, but his demeanor is much older. His suit fits like a second skin, the top button of his shirt undone. Every gesture is calm and precise, like that of an old man who has seen it all. His words are clear, loud enough to understand, but they do not cut the ear with childish notes. "Will you accept my gift?" he asks, looking at me. I can't say anything special about his eyes. I've never looked closely. I can't even name their color. But every time our gazes meet, I begin to feel fear. It sounds implausible, I know, but when you stand before this child, you feel like a child compared to him. I understand that it is hard to believe and understand from the outside, but I feel as if I'm looking at someone dangerous enough to end me once and for all with minimal effort. It's like my life is a whim of a little boy. No. I say the same thing every time, looking away. He paces the room with slow, steady steps. The thick carpet rustles, swaying like grass in the wind. I clearly hear the rustling of his clothes, the creaking of leather shoes, but his heart is silent, as dead as mine. Why? This simple question increasingly leaves me at a loss. Once at first I showed incredible zeal. Now I understand what motivated me, but back then I loudly declared, "I don't need other people's blood." I understood what he expected from me. I resisted his will, but every time our conversation ended, I was thrown back into the real world. As a parting gift, I was left with heightened instincts, sensitive as exposed wires. Only incredible willpower kept the beast inside from breaking free, but sometimes it did, leading to horrifying events that weakened me, breaking down the integrity of my mind. The question and answer remained unchanged. I dreaded such a gift, afraid I couldn't control it, repeatedly witnessing the blood and flesh of others, becoming increasingly indifferent and calm about it. Only my reason and consciousness, knowing that I was tearing apart someone else's future, kept me from accepting, and I always responded with a firm no. But my certainty was increasingly cracking, threatening to give way under the relentless force. Soon I started saying, "I don't want innocent victims," without understanding what I was hoping for. I didn't even guess where this constant conversation could lead. It always ended the same way. But then there were changes. The little boy stopped and looked at me again, making me very uneasy. I thought I had angered him, that he had decided to end my fate and move on to something more important. But no, he just asked another question. And the lives of the guilty. That truly cornered me. I realized that, in fact, I wasn't worried about others, their fates, worries, and lives. No, it turned out to be quite simple, but also depressingly sad. I was only concerned about myself, thinking about my future, without even realizing it. Pure self-deception. Only my subconscious knew the real answer to why I was afraid to say yes to him, why I didn't respond with, "I will accept your gift." I feared losing myself, feared that instincts would intertwine with my mind, leaving nothing of me but a pitiful noise like coastal waters, a reminder that once there was reason and personality, but they were consumed by the body and its desires. This fear made me fight against myself and my passions. It kept me above the abyss that pulled me in. Sometimes I was stronger, winning, holding my place in the body, resisting the desires, but they slowly but surely wore away the stone beneath me. And here it is, my fall. Now I can barely think, moving my thoughts like heavy boulders, unable to do anything significant or worthwhile. The sunset is approaching. Time relentlessly moves forward, and the chains are already rattling. The beast is awake and eager to break free. It is too confined in my cage, unable to understand my actions. How could it, a brainless creature fit only for killing and maiming? It is utterly mad and knows no fear in the usual sense. But we were once one. It saved me more than once, but it separated from my mind that fateful evening when I ceased to be human. I was sitting with my papers at home, on the surface. Darkness outside and music playing nearby. The work was captivating. I planned to finish early and move on to something new. Back then, I had an unflagging mind, hungry for everything. Back then, I was still human. I didn't immediately understand what was happening. There was a deafening blow, and then another, something truly heavy fell to the floor. Naturally, I rushed to the living room, grabbing a knife along the way, an old habit. From the living room, the hallway was clearly visible, the corridor with the door. The latter lay on the floor, and a gaunt man in dirty rags was slowly walking towards me. I couldn't believe what I saw. My brain couldn't reconcile the sight with the familiar, established realities that had surrounded me since birth. A simple person can't knock a steel door off its hinges. He was clutching a bleeding hand to his chest. I remember thinking, did he do that with his fist? I was genuinely stunned. I didn't even attempt to speak or ask anything. No, I patiently waited. What will happen next? I think there's no point in describing that strange state in detail. My body was preparing, coiling like a spring. My hand gripped the knife handle until my fingers went numb, and my legs instinctively took a stance. I didn't see the throw, only sensed it with something akin to intuition, stepping back automatically. A chill at my nape suggested another step, and I felt my gut. Instead of retreating, I sidestepped behind the table. I thought the frail man would stop. It would be inconvenient for him to attack, with a table on one side and a wall on the other. But no, he lunged like a rabid dog, trying to grab me with foam at the mouth. I could only press against the wall and slash at his cheek. That agile guy stepped back but didn't clutch at the hanging flap of skin. No. He calmly walked around the table and stood in front of me. I assumed he would tip it over onto me, but the stabs between my shoulder blades urged, "Run, fool!" Before I could react, the table began to splinter, breaking in half. The massive table shattered from the blow of his whole hand. I don't know what others would have done, but I dashed to the kitchen. I guessed the uninvited guest was somewhat out of his mind, hoped he was entirely insane and wouldn't notice the kitchen was connected to the study, and the study to the living room, meaning by pushing the fridge into the passage and making a hasty barricade, I had cornered myself. But instincts were silent, and reason quietly settled like ash. The only help my mind gave me was a timely memory of a padded room. Remembering what happened to the steel door, I stood far from the barricade. A spectacular sight, let me tell you, seeing a fridge fly through the kitchen and out the window. I only had time to wonder, what did you eat for breakfast? There was almost nothing to use in the study. I overturned the desk, threw a cabinet on top, toppled a bookshelf, but had little hope. What were they compared to a giant fridge? I didn't wait for him to break through this barrier, dashed into the living room, and realized I wasn't the only smart one. He stood a few steps away from me, both hands bloody, face indifferent to his injuries, and instincts screamed, "Do something!" But I didn't know what, nowhere to hide, and running was pointless. Given his strength, he'd catch me in a few steps. My eyes couldn't follow his swift movements. He lunged at me, and I could only dodge, making useless slashes. He crouched low, attacked from below, looking like a snake. He made sudden leaps, but each time I dodged, he attacked again. I wasn't used to this. I had fought many times in my life, but never seen anything like this. I wasn't prepared, took hits, and suffered greatly for it. Just 2 hits, and my teeth underwent incredible changes. I once took pride in them, cared for their health, but now fragments flew everywhere. Parts of my teeth shattered, leaving jagged fangs. In a brief pause, feeling my new grin, I realized smiling was no longer an option. I managed to cut my tongue on the edge of a tooth. Such anger awoke in me. I'd been truly angry before, when my mind quieted like in a trance. But this was far worse. I felt that only one of us would survive. Either me or him. Period. Knowing my neighbor's cowardice, how time in distress could turn into a swamp, I understood that only a few minutes had passed. I could rely only on myself, but I didn't want to die. In moments like these, when life depends only on you, something like this happens. Reason takes a back seat, becomes an observer, while instincts, premonitions, and rage take over. I was terrified, but my anger had altered the mechanism of fear in my childhood. I don't know. Maybe there's truth to hereditary memory. Or maybe it was my early years. But when I get scared, I attack the one threatening me. The guest, not brilliant, but he too was taken aback when the prey started attacking. Again and again, I pressed, slashing what I could, receiving blows, feeling him tearing flesh, only growing more furious. Reason completely faded, and the beast, gaining true freedom, unwilling to die, lunged forward, aiming for the throat. And it knew its business, clinging to the hunter with arms and legs, biting into his neck with sharp fangs. It tore flesh. Blood flowed down the throat. A strange intoxication and indescribable thirst, strengthening the body, urged to attack again and again, to tear him apart, drink the blood, repeatedly sinking teeth into the torn throat. I remember that feeling, the best I had ever experienced. This gift, a great curse, changing sensations, taste, making foreign flesh irresistibly delicious, compelling me to continue tearing the already dead body. The worst part, my awakening reason, I drank his blood. Tartly sour, warmly tender. I still taste that monstrous flavor in my mouth. And the flesh, like ripe juicy fruit, melting in my mouth, leaving a gentle aftertaste. I don't know where it all fit, but I ate him whole. Even his bones were within me, but it wasn't enough. I wanted more blood, intoxicating blood, juicy flesh, after which I felt rivers rushing within me, felt capable of devouring the entire world. I crawled on the floor, examining the dust, sniffing at the splinters and steel, greedily collecting drops of his blood. Without realizing it, I flipped the door with a finger, rejoicing at the few remaining drops in the dent. How to explain that bitter longing when it became clear that was all, nothing more. The feast was over, and the appetite had only arrived. Waiter, bring more. But no one came. Even the neighbors didn't call for help. I was utterly alone, abandoned, in a wrecked apartment, hungry, sorrowful, and angry. In my hungry dissatisfaction, my hunger and I were of one mind. I still understood nothing. It seemed all the past was mere fiction. This was the real life. I had just tasted its flavor, and didn't even want to think of returning to the boring papers with their records. What did I care about others' welfare when I was hungry? We, together, went through the floors, breaking into visits, hosting, committing the most atrocious acts. I never imagined I could be so indifferent to deaths. It wasn't yet conscious, but I killed, and ate, or rather, tasted and discarded. There was none of that taste, not even a poor imitation. The beast wanted to eat, and that sufficed for him, but not for me. Reminding of that taste, I led him further and further. We searched and searched for that taste, but never found it. In the morning, as I wandered the streets, drenched in blood, not knowing where I was, when feelings began to subside, and the beast decided to sleep until the next night, only then did everything become clear to me. I was horrified by what had happened and the changes that had occurred. My ears ached from the sharpness of my senses, and my eyes burned from the brightness. Even during the day, I remained what I had become. And I ran, searching for places to hide, and found this old house by chance, making it my new home. Since then, every night, I'm torn from reality, thrown into that building with the boy, and he, not getting what he wants, awakens the beast, heightening my senses to insane levels. I don't don't know what to do. I'm so tired, but I can't kill myself. The beast always breaks free and prevents me from crossing the point of no return. But this can't go on. I'm too tired and just want to sleep. I can't live without rest anymore. I'm tired of hunting and deaths. Only I see no way out except one. The one who turned me could have easily killed me. It would have cost him nothing, but he held back, resisting his beast. It seems he was just seeking freedom from the heavy gift. Perhaps I should.